Welcome to Kansas City Real Talk, brought to you by KCRAR. I'm your host, Alex Gehring. I'm really excited today. I get to talk to one of my friends in the business, Jim Gamble. Fun fact, Jim and I actually know each other from outside of real estate as well, and I've known Jim for a long time. He's been an agent since 1986. He served as president of Heartland MLS in the year 2000. He's been the president of KCRAR in 2005, was the president of Missouri REALTORS in 2014, and he was the regional vice president for Region 9 in 2018. The guy has served in just about every leadership position you can imagine, and he has a strong business. I'm really excited to talk to him about his story, and I think that you'll get a lot out of it. Let's go get Jim.
Continental Title Company isn't your average title company. Beyond just offering secure wire transfers and remote online notary services, CTC goes above and beyond with a portion of every buyer closing going to a charity of the client's choice. Plus, they make life easier for agents with online earnest money deposits and an app that gives you instant access to buyer and seller fees. But here's the real kicker. At every buyer closing, they throw a party. Picture this: confetti cannons, a toast, and a celebration of your success. Because at Continental Title Company, it's not just about closing deals. It's about celebrating you.
I am here with Jim Gamble. Jim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great.
Good to be here.
You got started in real estate in 1986. Arguably, you started thinking about real estate in 1985. That is 39 years ago, Jim. It's a long time ago.
It is. It is. It feels like, yeah.
It's nearly 40 years.
It feels like a decade times 4 ago.
You know, a lot of people that have been in the business in the last 10 years, I think that they feel that they've experienced so much change, and I know that they have. And a lot of people have experienced change fatigue, but in 40 years, just with the history that I'm aware of, there have been some monumental changes in the industry. I'm curious, in your nearly 40 years of experience, what the biggest change is that you've seen and experienced.
The biggest change? That's a good question. I might have to ponder that. I know that, I was in college between, 1980 and 84, and during that time, I'm glad I was not in real estate because interest rates were very high, double digits, and evidently the market went on despite higher interest rates. From an economic perspective, we've experienced as an industry significant increase in sales price.
Yeah. Okay.
We've experienced a period of time between 2008 and 2012 where 5 million housing units were not built. A lot of small builders, many of which Kansas City's kind of a small builder market. Mm-hmm. Many of those builders turned in their keys to the banks, and that was a really hard time for our industry. And we're still struggling with that today with a lack of inventory. Really other than that, we've seen agency change significantly. When I got in the business, even though I was out showing buyers that, I thought I was representing, I was not. I was representing the seller as a sub-agent, and that changed with buyer agency, which was the right thing to do. Obviously in the last several years with the Department of Justice looking into our industry and attorneys, probing how we do business, it's clear that transparency and how we're paid is important, at least to the federal government and to those that have kind of attacked our business in the last 3 or 4 years. That's been a big change. But I don't know that that really changes the way we as an industry do business. I think we genuinely care about our respective client, whether it be on the buyer side or the seller side. And for the most part, we're professionals that the consumer wants involved in the real estate transaction. So for that, I'm proud of what our association does to keep our agents ethical and trained and professional. And for that, I think we've got another 40 decades to hopefully continue this industry.
I think it's interesting, some of the things that you mentioned. Number one, most of them didn't happen in the last 10 years, but they were impacting us in the last 10 years. So even the conversation surrounding changing from sub-agency to buyer's agency and reframing that process, that is, in essence, one of the things that was being probed, to use your word, by the DOJ, and the way that we were practicing buyer's agency. The 2008 to 2012 lack of inventory and new builds, right? We're still experiencing that today. There's certainly a through line in the last 40 years. Everything that happened 40 years ago is still impacting us in a sense today. And maybe that's what makes it so easy for us to realize that everything's going to continue on and that we just have to continue to pivot.
I agree. We are valued by the consumer and how we help them. It's clear that they want a real estate professional in the transaction. And so for that, I'm really glad that I became a realtor. I still love doing this work. I really love helping buyers and sellers, and I'm probably going to continue to do it until I stop pedaling or until the phone stops ringing.
Yeah, that's pretty common, isn't it? So you're another one of those? Is that what you're telling me? I don't think so.
Actually, I am thinking about and trying to create an exit strategy just by way of trying to build a team that can do the business on behalf of the Gamble Group and do business the way that I like to do business. And I like to tell, if I get a new buyer that wants to do business with us, I'm going to say, hey, here's Paige. She's one of my buyer's agents, and she's going to treat you just like I treat you. And she embodies everything that I believe in, the way I represent you. And 9 times out of 10, those buyers are saying, if you taught her, then we're good with her. Yeah. And so, trying to find a way not to just fade away into the sunset is something that we think about and talk about frequently.
That's important. Well, let's dive into a little bit of the history. You had indicated that you were in college between 1980 and 1984, and you got started in real estate in 1986. So where did you go to college?
University of Missouri.
Okay. And I'm not going to say anything about that.
You don't have to.
Not that I care.
You don't.
I don't really care. What did you major in when you were at MU?
I majored in economics.
Economics?
Yeah.
Interesting. And what made you interested in economics?
So when I went to the university, I think the first 2 years you have to make a certain GPA to be able to get into business school. And if you don't reach that GPA, you're left with alternatives. I stayed in the School of Arts and Science, and in the School of Arts and Science, there are many degrees, and the closest degree to a business degree, which is offered in the business school, was an economics degree. So that is the path that I took to get out of the University of Missouri in 4 years and 6 hours. So I graduated 6 hours after I was supposed to.
I'm curious. Obviously, it seems like things have gone very well for you after you got that economics degree. I'm curious if you feel that things would have been different or what you would have done if you went to business school.
I don't know that would have changed the trajectory of my life. I feel like my personality came from where I grew up at Lake of the Ozarks. And I spent a lot of time in the service industry, whether it be pumping gas and renting boats on the docks of Port Arrowhead or the Floating Clown Restaurant, or as a room service waiter at the Lodge of the Four Seasons. I was always dealing with people that needed service. And I knew that, and I quickly learned that if I gave good service with a smile and I made them like me as quickly as I could in that first impression opportunity, that they would not only thank me, but they would also provide me a gratuity. And so most of my life growing up as a kid, I had earned $2.01 an hour, which was the minimum wage for the kind of work I was doing. But the majority of my earnings were gratuity and commission-based.
You were selling services then.
Yeah. So that's where I honed my skills as a young man at Lake of the Ozarks. And then an opportunity really just kind of showed up. I had moved to Kansas City after working for a marketing company that R.J. Reynolds Tobacco had hired, and I traveled for about a year with that company, and I got tired of it. So I landed in Kansas City, got a job at Kelly's in Westport, and one day a realtor was having a beer, and he said, "Jim, you should get into real estate." And at the time, the company that he worked for was J.D. Reese. And so, and that was in the fall of '85, and in the spring of '86 is when my career began.
Awesome. And which part of the city were you in at that point? Where were you at?
First office was at 72nd and Mission Road.
Okay.
So I spent most of my time, most of the offices that I worked in were the close-in market.
Obviously, totally different environment for new people then, I assume, compared to new people now. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how it's changed for new people over the course of the last 39 years. We have is still with everybody was predicting that numbers would come down, and I know that the NAR membership has come down a little bit. But from my perspective, I'm involved in a licensing school, and we're seeing a ton of students coming in, and I mean, people are getting into this industry still at a fast clip, right? For those people, what's different compared to what you had to go through 39 years ago?
So the only difference that I see that's significant is just social media. And the people getting in the business today might think that is my path. If I can show people via social media that I'm doing the activities, I'm holding open houses, look, I'm a realtor. And then when they sell their first house, it would behoove them not to say, how grateful I am to get to work with, Joe and Mary for the purchase of their first home. Thank you for your confidence in me. That's all somewhat a social media way of advertising yourself. That wasn't really available in the late 80s. Personally, I think there's another way to basically grow as a realtor, and it's, I was a joiner. When I moved to Kansas City, the first thing I did is I joined a church. And no, I didn't put my business card under all the the windshield wipers, on side. I didn't do that. But I joined a church because that's important to me.
Was it Country Club Christian?
Yep.
Was that the church that you joined?
Yep.
The only reason for our listeners, the reason why I asked that is because Jim and I both attend Country Club Christian Church.
But what I've always believed that when you give back, you get back. My fraternity at Mizzou had a motto or a slogan that said, "You give expecting nothing thereof." So I leaned into philanthropy. I leaned into organizations that I could join, that I could impact, and whether it be the local Mizzou Alumni Association or the Leukemia Society or Children's Mercy Hospital or any number of volunteer opportunities that I had. And when you lean into giving back and you're side by side, shoulder to shoulder with other people, and then you express interest in leadership, so you go and you learn and then you lead. And over the course of my life, I've done a lot of giving back, both to my realtor community, but also to the local community. And through doing that, I've met literally thousands of people in Kansas City. And I did not grow up here. I grew up at Lake of the Ozarks. And so getting out and meeting people and doing the things that they like to do, leaning into the organizations that you love. There's other people that love those organizations. And through that,
well, they get to see you work, right? If you're on a board or anything like that, they get to see you work in a professional setting and in a way that's probably going to make them trust you in another professional setting. Versus social media, I don't know that social media really conveys that same thing. It conveys experience, but it's not that you're not seeing somebody work in person.
No, and I don't know that I would ever post, what I'm doing philanthropically, because honestly, that's like, look at me.
That's not the point.
Look at me. It's like, that's not the point. The point is, you give. And then you don't expect a return on investment. You don't expect a return on your time. You give, to be, morally satisfied. And if people see that in you and they see you work and they like you and you're articulate, then they probably are going to want to do business with you.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of the foundation of my career.
Well, and that foundation grew into you giving back to your realtor community and to the association. So, and maybe I'm skipping something. I know that in 2000, you were the Heartland Multiple Listing Service president. What other, did you hold another leadership role in the association prior to that service?
That was my first significant service to our association. When I first became a realtor, I can remember my broker, Jenny Alexander, handing me a roll of raffle tickets. And she said, "Go find Randy Knight. He'll buy 100 of these." And I said, "What's RPAC?" So it started with just an RPAC committee, and then being on the committee for the RPAC auction, and then chairing the committee for the RPAC auction. But then ultimately that led me onto the Heartland MLS board. And when you get elected to those boards, you still have an opportunity to be a leader on that board. And at some moment, I must have left the room for a moment, and then I came back and I had been nominated treasurer-elect. But those are 5-year commitments.
Yeah.
And so I served a 5-year term on the leadership of Heartland MLS.
Now, maybe I want to make sure that I'm right on this, but that period was a period of change for Heartland MLS, was it not? Was there a merger of two MLSs during that time?
No, there was a merger of two boards.
Two boards, okay.
During my leadership.
Was that Johnson County Board and WICO?
KC Metro.
KC Metro, okay.
So the two big boards merged into what is now KCRAR.
Got it. So at what point did you start the Gamble Group?
So,
or let me rephrase that. At what point did you venture into team leadership?
I would say that about 10 years into the business, I realized that I could only do about $7 million worth of production. And that's like 25 to 35 deals a year without my hair lighting on fire. And I had either purchased or received as a gift Gary Keller's book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And in that book, it talks about the three foundational legs of real estate, which would be leads, listings, and leverage. And I focused on the leverage, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna get an assistant. And I was probably the first person at the Southgate office at J.D. Reese and then Reese Nichols to have a full-time assistant. And what I discovered was the next year I ended up doing $14 million in business. And so if you think about it, it was one of the scariest decisions I'd made because, I'm going to give a guy a $25,000 salary and a transaction bonus. This is before there were transaction coordinators. And let's just say that was going to cost me a total of $50,000. And so at that point, I'm thinking, okay, I know that this works. And that was kind of the first step of, what Gary Keller says, there's 7 levels. And, if you get to the 7th level, you actually own a team and you don't even work on it. And I've never gotten to that point, nor do I think, I don't know if I ever will, because over the course of 30 plus years, I've had many people be on my real estate team. I've done a lot of training, most of which in the trenches, deal by deal, hand-to-hand combat. And I think that I've taught a lot of agents how to be good agents. What I haven't done, and I've never really been good at it, is being a good manager. And I finally just decided that, that is not an ingredient that's in my body. I can train, I can lead, but I can't manage. And so many of my team members, grew their wings and flew away. And you know what? That's okay.
Don't you think that there are probably most agents really struggle with the idea of management? Do you think that that's in the DNA of most salespeople?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
I agree.
I mean, we are by nature
outdoor cats.
Salespeople.
Yeah,
we're outdoor cats.
Yeah.
I like that.
I stole that from Jimmy Burgess, but that's the deal, right? Yeah. And I think, I think you would agree. I think there are a lot of people that have teams that probably that isn't really. They would improve their income actually if they weren't spending time on management. Would you agree with that as well?
I would say that when I had a team as many as 10 members on my team at one point in my career. And at the end of the year, I looked at my 1099 and it really wasn't any better than what it was without that many agents. And so it was an experiment. And again, many of those people are still successful agents. And if you're on a team, there has to be a value proposition that's worth staying on. And so, and I look at it this way, if they don't see their world growing inside of my world has to be big enough for their world to not only exist, but to grow to wherever they want to be. And if they don't see that, they'll leave. It's that simple. And I think that holds true whether you're on a team or whether you're at a company. And if that company isn't delivering you what you need and you don't see yourself growing there, it's very likely that they'll go find a place where they think they can grow. And that's why agents move companies.
You have a presence and your orbit is large. I've been to events with you and around you, and everybody knows you. It's true. We go to anything on the Missouri side, everybody knows you, right? You go to an NAR conference, everybody knows you. And this is a weird and difficult question to figure out how to phrase. What is it that makes you so magnetic in those kinds of environments? And because I think it's hard. What is the difference between that and managing and retaining? And I know that there's a difference, but I think that it's hard for people to see and recognize.
I mean, if you look at, there's a lot of great team leaders in this business. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they are the magnet or if they're smart enough to hire
magnets
to do the things that they're not good at. Now, Kathy Kaler, she's magnetic.
Yeah.
She's full of energy.
Big orbit. Yeah.
Big orbit. But she's got her admin team that, I don't know where the glue is, but
it's there.
But it's there.
Yeah, clearly.
And I just, I don't need a big team to be happy.
Yeah, there you go.
But I like being in the presence, and I like loving on people that that love on me.
And you've always liked being around people that are newer in the industry, regardless of whether they were on your team or not. I mean, I think people, because you have a gravitational pull, people come to you. I certainly have. People come to you to have conversations about the business and to learn about it, regardless of team affiliation or anything else. And if that itch is scratched in that way, and you can focus on your business the way that you want to do, that's enough.
You think about the book that Gary wrote, and this is not a Keller Williams advertisement. When he wrote that book, he just put together a culmination of top agents and teams around the country. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that he reached out to 100 top producing teams in the country. Half of the people that he reached out to said, "You want me to do what? You want me to share my secrets with you? Forget about it." And they hung up on him. The other 50 people took his call and they said, "You want to share my story? That's awesome. That makes me feel so good. Fly to Tennessee. No, don't stay at the Marriott. You can stay at my house. How many nights you want to be here? How long do you want to look around?" And the difference between those two people, in my mind, are the people that said no live in a world of scarcity. and the people that said yes live in a world of abundance. And I've always believed that I'll tell you how I do it, and this is how I do it, and I'll show you how I do it. And there's 100 different ways to be successful in this business. I'm not telling you that my way is the right way, but it's the right way for me. And my philosophy is just to be open, have an open door, call people back, answer their questions, help them navigate tough deals, help them navigate, if they don't like where they are, figure out if that's the problem. If they're trying to do too many things and they're not getting anywhere in their business, maybe they need to figure out what they're really good at and focus on maybe 2 or 3 things rather than spending 5% of their life on 20 things. And all that depends on who it is you're talking to, and their personality, because there are very transactional agents that if I call 20 people every day, I know that one person might give me an appointment, and it's just a numbers
It's
game.
the math.
It's the math.
That's it. Yeah.
I've never really been a math guy. What I figured out over the course of time is if I get up and I do what I've been doing, I'm going to have this pretty amazing career.
Of people who know you, like you, trust you. Yeah, that's.
And the phone rings.
Yeah.
And I love on them. And I send people note cards. And I love to play golf. I love to travel. I spend a lot of time at Holbrook Country Club, and I see these young men and women that are juniors, and I see their success. I see the trophies that they hold when I get these monthly newsletters, and I'll send those 12, 13, 14-year-old kids like a note, and like a picture of them holding their trophy, and I'll give them I'll congratulate them, but I'll give them some worldly advice, like, hey, don't marry the person you can live with, marry the person you can't live without. And I'll mail this, and then their parents will eventually see the card, and then I'll get a phone call, and they'll say, Gamble, that was the coolest note you sent my kid. That was awesome. And when I do that, I don't expect their business in return. I just expect them to be, I don't want to say grateful, but I like
a relationship.
I like to make people feel good, especially when we all like to be praised.
Yeah.
Right? And to be praised by somebody that you're not expecting praise from, that's special. And so, I do odd little things like that all the time. And heck, one time, my wife and I, we have a Christmas dinner on the 23rd of December every year. And she sends me down to Garozzo's that afternoon. And that particular day, it was about 5 years ago, I go into Garozzo's down on 5th and Harrison. And, you walk in, and then there's a small little bar where maybe 7 people can eat food. And I went in to get my to-go order, and they said, it's going to be a few minutes. And I said, all right, well, then get me a glass of wine and get that guy right there a glass of wine too. I didn't even see his face. I just saw the back of his head, and he was waiting. He turned around and he said, thank you. We struck up a conversation. Well, within 6 months, I didn't know this, but he was building a home. And he ended up needing to sell a home right off Ward Parkway, right behind Country Club Christian Church. And that random act of kindness turned into $1 million sale. And it's it was just a glass of wine. And so those are fun things.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
I love that. So, Jim, when were you the RVP, Regional Vice President?
I was the RVP of NAR in 2010.
2018. And for those that don't know and I guess to be honest with you, I don't know that I could tell you. I know that it's a lot, and I know that when you're in that position, you go to all of the state board meetings, or maybe not all of them, but I assume most of them, and that are in that region, and you talk to their board members and give them a regional update. I know that you've got a ton of meetings with the National Association. What is that role, though, and what is the purpose of that role?
So a regional vice president is a communication conduit between the executive committee of the National Association of Realtors and the states that regional vice president represents. So as an RVP, in my case, Region 9 is comprised of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. So during that year as a regional vice president, I was each of those states' liaison to NAR. And I would attend their meetings. And each of those states have 2 to 3 meetings a year. So I would attend their meetings and I would listen, but I would also be the conduit to deliver information coming down from NAR, whether it's programming or RPAC issues. We have elections every 2 years, and RPAC is very involved in trying to find congressmen and senators who support and are allies of real estate. And so that, too, is one of those lines of communication. And at the same time, you've got states that support their senators and their congressmen and women, and sometimes they're like, I can't get a meeting with this guy. They don't respect us. And sometimes, the state will want to, primary an incumbent because they either don't have a good voting record pertaining to real estate, or they're just
no relationship.
There's no relationship.
Yeah.
But that was a fun year because that gave me another view and another lens to see NAR. And NAR is a big organization. Has 900 directors from across the country, and I was chosen. I don't know that I was chosen for that position, but that position revolves from each state. So Kansas, and then Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma. It rotates. And so when Missouri has that position available every 4 years, we would basically look back and look at the 4 past presidents and find out if anybody has an interest in serving in that capacity. And me and one other past president had an interest. I let her know that I was planning, if I needed to have it be in an election against her to do that, I would. But then she ended up getting a vice chair position that made her the chair the year that Elizabeth Mendenhall from Columbia, Missouri was our NAR president. And that same year was the year that I was the RVP.
Got it.
So, again, but it took my leadership journey went from Heartland MLS to KCRAR, 5 years, then Missouri REALTORS, 5 years, and then along the way, you continue to meet people and grow relationships, and when you do a good job leading, you get recognized. And so I was fortunate that Missouri REALTORS supported me when I was in their leadership journey, and yeah, I got to be the RVP in 2018.
In 2019, then, you had a motorcycle accident. It was a cross-country motorcycle accident. I'm telling you this as though you didn't know that, and I don't know why. But for our listeners, you had a motorcycle accident, and I know that the relationships that you had and built during that time meant a lot to you in those moments. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you experienced?
Sure. Well, I've rode motorcycles most of my life. I bought a Harley, and I had been riding on trips with friends. And this particular trip, I invited another realtor, Steve Banks, to ride with me, and then three.
I
other
didn't know
guys.
that Steve was with you.
Yeah, there were 5 of us, and so yeah, we were in Provo, Utah, and Steve was coming in late that night. And when you ride all day, at the end of the day, you fill up your bike and you wash it off, so the next morning you're ready to go. And so Steve came in that night. He did not have the opportunity to wash or fill up his tank. So the next morning, I told these guys, at the hotel buffet, I said, we'll be right back. And so anyway, basically a guy did a illegal U-turn in front of me at a big intersection in Provo, Utah. And I was going about 48 miles an hour. Did not have my helmet on because I was just running a little errand. That accident put me in the hospital in Provo for 10 days, 7 days in ICU. I broke my collarbone, my scapula, got 20 staples in my head, 7 broken ribs, collapsed lung, and I lost my spleen. And I'm probably pretty lucky to be alive. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that happened literally a month after I had decided to no longer be the team leader of the Keller Williams Plaza office that we had opened up 21 months before that. Mm-hmm. And so I stepped out of leadership, got on my bike, had a motorcycle accident, got home 2 weeks later after getting out of the hospital, and had probably 2 additional months of recovery. And then that following January or February is when COVID broke out. But back to your comment, while I was in the hospital, Kenny Parcell, who is from Utah, Kenny was aware that we were in town. Kenny found out that I'd had the accident because my son Joey, he had put out a really quality post about the accident, and it got the attention of all the people that are my Facebook friends, mm-hmm. many of which, a lot live in Utah. And so Kenny not only came to visit me, but he opened up his house to Betsy and to Joey for the entire time that I was in the hospital. So, and then the CEO of the Utah Realtors also came and visited me, and he brought me a book, a really nice book about fishing. And it's like, what's this? What's this book about fishing? He says, you need to start a new hobby, Jim. You should not be riding motorcycles anymore. And honestly, I mean, since then, I have actually I've started fly fishing again. And I've been on a number of fly fishing trips, both in Wyoming and in Arkansas. Not that was an impetus, but yeah. So
I love it.
We're.
Do you ride motorcycles at all anymore?
I don't.
You don't?
That was the last. That was my last ride. Although I still have all my equipment, with the exception of the jacket, the leather jacket that they cut off of me. But I tell Betsy, it's like, you be nice to me or else.
You're going to go riding again?
I'm going to go buy another motorcycle. And she just rolls her eyes and walks away. So
I'm curious what your vision of the Association of Realtors. There's lots of discussion right now, right, about value and where the association can provide the most value, and we're kind of going through this evolution. It seems like right now. I'm curious, from Jim's perspective, what does the association look like in 10 years? So we're going to assume a level of stabilization and those things, and not jump to anything wild. What does it look like in 10 years?
I hope that the speed bumps that we've recently hit with lawsuits in the Department of Justice, all that happened because there were some weaknesses in the way we do business, and those weaknesses were exposed by a class action lawsuit. And I'm not suggesting that what happened in that courtroom that federal courtroom downtown Kansas City, I'm not suggesting that what happened there was wrong. But plaintiffs' attorneys found a weakness, and they exposed that weakness, and they drove a really big spike, and which cost the National Association of Realtors upwards of $500 million. And as a result, we're pivoting, and we are trying to be a better association, and we're trying to teach our agents to be better agents. So a buyer's agent just can't say to a buyer, hey, my representation is free. It's not. You can't say that. And that's, I think, what got us.
Never should have been saying
That's what got us in trouble, is buyer's agents saying that. And so the changes that we've made are working. I don't know that the DOJ is satisfied with. I think we do a lot better job of being transparent. Where are those fees being paid, and who's paying them, and buyers can now more easily negotiate a buyer's agent commission, and I think that was something that the DOJ wanted, and they're getting that. I don't know that the outcome of that is to their satisfaction, but we're changing as an association. And we hired a new CEO, and she is taking us through a big internal reorganization, and looking at all the things that we were doing. And we were doing a lot of different things, probably not focusing on the core things that NAR should be focusing on. And to me, that's education and professionalism and advocacy. And in 10 years, I think that NAR will continue to do a great job of advocating for the realtor community and for the people that our community serves. I've always believed that the American dream consists of, apple pie, hot dogs, and home ownership, and private property rights. And I think that if we continue to focus on trying to help every single American that wants to be a homeowner, if we can help them get there, that we're helping people live better lives. And so I think NAR and the realtor community that are members of NAR and our state association and our local association, I think they do a good job of guiding our professionalism, and I think they'll continue to do that.
I love it, Jim. Well, I got to tell you, I've always admired you for being a top-tier professional in the field, like on the boots on the ground, but also as a leader in the industry. There aren't a lot of people like you, and you and I have had a lot of conversations with a table between us like this. This is the first time with microphones, but I hope sometime you'll be back. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for
Alex.
everything you do.
You bet.